Thanks for joining me today for this forecast for Thursday, the 6th of August 2026. And with this, we've got a little bit of a change. We're switching things up a little bit. We've got Venus going into the sign of Libra today. It's going to be there until the 10th of September. So it's just over a month's worth of Venus in Libra. This is quite handy, actually, because Venus is the ruler of Libra, or, she also rules Taurus. She's very, very happy in the sign of Libra, so this should be quite harmonious. We've also got two moon aspects. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, talk about these two moon aspects, and then we'll talk more specifically about Venus going into the sign of Libra and what that will bring. So in terms of the moon in a square with the sun, what we're in right now is the turning of a moon phase. So when we had the moon in an opposition to the sun, which wasn't too long ago, roughly about a week ago, because we have 4 clear moon phases with 2 little moon phases in between. So we've got 8 moon phases every lunar month, but 4 that are really showing where there's a huge change. The last big change we experienced would have been at the time of the full moon, and that was the full moon in the sign of Aquarius just a week ago. Now the moon is landing at a midpoint between where it was and where the sun was. And this is marking the moment when the moon is exactly in a square to the sun. Now, the next movement will be to be in a new moon. And so this is really changing the journey. Now, at the time of the full moon, we were starting the waning moon phase. So the moon was moving from being full at the time of the full moon and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And of course, it's going to be really small. It's going to disappear at the time of the new moon, which coincidentally also happens to be the solar eclipse. And so this midway phase is showing that there is a change in the actual waning moon phase. And so at the start of a waning moon phase, we're starting to reduce things. We're starting to tidy things up. We're starting to pull things back into place. At the time of the full moon, things always get a little bit out of hand. And so we're starting that little journey of teasing things back into place and learning what we need to hold on to, and also being a bit more quiet with ourselves. This is a time that I associate with being quite dormant. We're really coming back into ourselves. It's a much more reclusive time, a time when we need to recuperate a lot more. The other way round, which we'll be doing from the 12th of August, which is next week's solar eclipse, we'll be going into a growth phase, which is a lot more social, a lot more outward, where we're expecting to see very clear signs as to what is needed. And so we're into this very last moon phase before the new moon. And so what's actually happening now is the moon is getting substantially smaller and smaller and smaller. And in many ways, this is a time when there's less available light for us. This is a time when things are quite sleepy, when there's less available energy to put to things. And also it's a time when we don't necessarily know the answers and we have to go deep inside ourselves. We have to really trust ourselves to know what's going on. And so this square is just marking, we're in that time now. So when this moon square comes along, that's reminding us, okay, it's time to really knuckle down now, really tidy things up, get all those loose ends complete. Now, what makes this even more important is we're coming up to a solar eclipse. And this particular solar eclipse is pretty big. And I have to say I'm very excited about it, and I will be recording something specifically about it. But this solar eclipse, if you think of a solar eclipse, it is not just a new moon, so it's a blank slate, clean slate, but it's a clean slate with a lot more energy behind it. And so I think between now and then, if you can clear, keep pulling things back, keep looking for rubbish underneath the rug, get everything tidy in your house, all your drawers, all those places that you dare not go to. To me, it's almost like a spiritual practice, and you're pulling everything back so that at the time of the solar eclipse, there's this clear space to open into, this clear space to start to grow from. A bit like, if you were, traditional ideas on setting up a garden is that you really sort the ground out first, like really dig deep into it, get rid of anything that you don't want, and get it beautiful so that all of your seeds that you're sowing are just right. So I think we're going into a preparation space, and this is like the alarm clock. I don't know if you set alarms on your phone. I certainly do. Always setting alarms so I know, it's this time now. So this is time to get things in place. Now, at the same time, the moon is going to go into a sextile with Mercury, reminding us that actually we need to be talking about this. We need to be having conversations. We need to be writing. We need to be sharing. We need to be in communication whilst we're going through this process. Now, at a very introverted level, and I think it could be quite introverted because the moon's in Taurus and Mercury is in the sign of Cancer, they are very trustworthy signs, very one-on-one kind of signs. Really showing that you're likely to have deep and meaningfuls as opposed to going out and getting pissed with your mates. To me, it's much more of a come sit, have a cup of tea, let's connect and let's go deep. And so if you don't have people like that around tomorrow that you can sit and have a natter with, this is your time to engage with self-talk, because this is a time of going deep into yourself. So think about what you're clearing space for. Think about what you want to plant in your new space and start to talk about the fears or resistances that come up in respect to those conversations. To me, you're not just clearing the ground in a physical way, but you're doing it emotionally and at, I think, a vibrational level as well. So anything that you can perceive in your life right now that is not a vibrational match to clean and clear and simple and spacious and alive and ready for you, then let go of it. Give it some space. Give yourself space to breathe. So that's my thoughts about Thursday. And that isn't just you do it on Thursday. That is the invitation to do it until the time of the eclipse. And this is something that naturally comes up for a week every month when we go deeper into that clearing process. But this one is especially strong. Now, if we also consider the fact that Venus is going into Libra on this day, then that's also going to add another dimension because Venus is very strong in Libra. She rules Libra. And Libra is, if you don't already know, the sign of Libra is all about balance. It's all about harmony. It's all about beauty. Libra is a sign that wants to get everything just right. Everything smooth and clean and clear and calm. Peace is a really strong value, and Venus is all about values. Not only is she a planet of love, which that's probably, I imagine, how you would know of her. She was the goddess of love, but she's all about flow. And of course, with flow, you get abundance, well-being. And I always think Venus is asking us about what are you ready to allow and what are you ready to receive? So she is wanting us to go into an allowance. And she's also very much about relatedness, like how are we relating to others? How are we relating to a new start? So all of the things that are going on right now, how are you relating to them? Because she is going to start describing that relatedness in harmonious terms. So where she's been in the sign of Virgo, she has been relating to everything from a perspective of, does it fit? Does it work? Is it ecological? Is it healthy? Is it fit for purpose? Is it going to help other people? Is it going to be of service? Virgo really puts a kind of moral stance on Venus here. But now that Venus is going into Libra, we're going into a space where we're much more about the beauty. We're much more about the glamour of it. Venus in Libra is quite glamorous, I'll be honest. And civility and mutual respect is so important to the Venus in Libra character, because civility is saying, like, even if we can't agree, we can still be respectful. We can still work together. In fact, the sign of Libra is the only sign that doesn't actually have a human or an animal involved in it. You could say the water bearer as well, but there's somebody bearing that water carrier. So Venus is, in the sign of Libra, is in a sign that, interestingly, even though it's talking about beauty and balance and cooperation, it doesn't have anything human or animal about it. It's a process, that it's a mechanical process of the scales. So things being fair and right and just are very, very important to Venus in Libra. Now, some of the strengths of Venus in Libra is that you'll be able to find grace when things might be feeling pressured. The scales will balance and the niceness will come out, and the desire for peace and mutual appreciation is definitely going to come out. There's a lot of fairness, justice, natural charm. It allows us to build strong relationships. So anything that's not working really well right now, this is the time to get it balanced. And that might be one of those clearings that you're doing, in terms of clearing the grounds before the solar eclipse. Is there something to clear in your relationships? Is there something to clear in your relatedness? Because that's a real big thing. Things are very, very cooperative rather than competitive, and that's something to bear in mind. And one thing I really love about the Venus in Libra energy is how elegant it is and how it can bring people together. So we're looking for elegant situations, elegant solutions, graceful solutions to any problems that we're experiencing, or any resistances. Remember, Venus is about flow, so she's about to bypass resistances. She's about to gloss over it and to invite you into a conducive space for well-being together. Now, of course, the shadow side, you might have heard some of those shadow sides coming in, especially if it matches some of your internal thoughts and personality. There can be people pleasing that can go too far with Venus in Libra. So you might find things too conciliatory. There can be a fear of losing self within relationships, and a fear of rejection. So it's all about relatedness and not the separation and rejection. There's a lot of seeking validation that can come out as a strong theme. And keeping the peace at any cost, I think, is also, probably one of the downsides, because when we make things at any cost, we stop being reasonable. We start to pander to ego, and I don't think that's so helpful. Over compromising and romanticizing, and wearing rose tinted glasses can absolutely come up with this, especially if you've got a lot of this in your chart. You might just be aware that this tendency might come out a little bit more. And harmony over honest truth, or the need to be liked over being authentic. So, the Venus in Libra's people pleasing can sometimes overpower our individual survival. And so that's something to watch out for. With these, I always try to put in some kind of comment that really epitomizes what would be a healthy balance between all the different styles. And I think I honor myself as much as I honor others. What that means is you're not putting yourself first, but you're certainly not putting somebody over you or above you, or as more important than you. So this is about getting a balance between loving yourself and loving others, supporting others and supporting yourself. And of course, that comes back into the message of allowance, relatedness, and reciprocity, but also receivership. So Venus into Libra, this could be about to activate your receivership. Are you ready to receive? Which I think is a really good message, because when we also consider that we've got the solar eclipse coming up in flashy Leo, warm Leo, extravagant Leo, this could be an opening up for something really quite marvelous for you, especially if 20 degrees Leo, which is where it's going to be at, is in a particularly strong place in your chart. This could be a time when things open up magnificently. However, you've now got, this is almost like your wake up alarm to clear some space, get your relationships prepped, resistances managed and understood, and bring yourself into this calmer, more peaceful state of mind. So Thursday, I think, actually could be the start of something very, very proactive, very organized, that's going to get you ready for the solar eclipse. So I hope that's helpful to you. Sending you lots of love, and I look forward to catching up with you all soon. Bye for now.